I was listening to it as I set up. I was in the car, NPR on, talking with someone from Denver who was their water person. He's calling in.
Is he calling in? We're calling him. I have his name.
I guess we're calling him. Sorry, I didn't have an update on that.
Hello.
Hey, Mike. This is Anthea, Chris, Bill, and Michelle. All right, so we're going to call our meeting to order. So good evening, everyone. We're going to call our select board meeting for Monday, August 24th, 2026 to order. I am Anthea Brady, the chair, joined by Bill McGonigal, vice chair, Michelle Pryor, and Mike Betancourt on the phone. And then we have our town manager, Chris Senior, with us. We are going to begin this evening with a hearing on a public shade tree removal, and to make a final determination on a shade tree located at, why don't I see the 612 Main Street. Thank you. Public shade tree located at 612 Main Street. There was a public hearing on this that was conducted earlier in July 21st, and we received written objections, which then send it to the select board to make a final determination. So that's what we're going to do today. I will open up the public hearing if you're here to speak at the public hearing.
Yeah, it's not technically a public hearing, so it's
not.
The board is reviewing the decision and then making a determination. So the hearing there's been a public hearing, and you can still take input from the public. You're free to do that.
I'm just reading it. It starts off with the word public.
No, I know. It's a little weird the way the bylaws work. So I'll give you the information in the packet. I'll give you the 60-second highlight. So some complaints have come in about the tree at 612 over the winter. We weren't really able to do anything. Took a hard look at it. I asked outright if there's anything that could be done absent looking at getting rid of the tree. So DPW took a hard look, and we got a report from Northeast Tree Service, which is in the packet, which said if you cut the roots, which would be the only way to round that out, you'd end up putting the tree in jeopardy and then would fall. It would die and fall. It could be more genuinely dangerous at that point, not just obstruction. So after continued review, there was the public hearing was posted. The hearing took place. There were, as you noted, Madam Chair, objections posted. So what's in the packet is the notice of the hearing, all the information that was there at the hearing. And then in addition, there's a letter from the Disability Access Commission signed by the chair expressing their support for the removal of the tree because of its impediment and they said particularly pedestrians and particularly wheelchair users, people with mobility limitations, seniors, and people using strollers. The challenge in that particular site is that there's a manhole right before it. There's an alleyway there, so you can't really bridge it or go around it. If you actually went into the street, you'd lose a parking space if you put the sidewalk out around it. And I'm not sure if that would even work. So, but you couldn't go inside. There's also one other letter that came in that you now have at the table. from an individual who is a volunteer at the Jenks Center and was one longtime Winchester resident who also expressed the concerns and support for its removal. Don't want to be here, don't really want to have to take a tree down, but this is the only resort. This is really the only thing that'll work here. We have Bob and Jimmy DiTullio from DPW. If anyone on the board has any questions for them to start, and then you can hear from the public.
Okay, sure. So why don't, Bob, why don't y'all come up and provide an update on sort of what the DPW's information is on this one.
I don't know if you guys have seen the sidewalk, but I have some pictures here for you.
Bob?
Thank you.
So you can see on that, the bricks have heaved, so the roots are coming up through the sidewalk. They're so high that for us, if we were to take the bricks out and put another type of material over that, we would be a little bit high now. So to reach the ADA requirements for slope, the 1 in 12, we'd go back too far, and then we'd be off on the cross slope from the front of the curb to the buildings. And then there's, you can see in the picture, there's a manhole, an electric manhole there from Eversource that is an issue for us, plus that alleyway right next door to the building then would be cut off from the street. They use that to run their trash out to the curb for them, for curbside pickup. To go out into the street with a sidewalk would eliminate another parking space in that area. So if we were to cut those roots on that side of the tree's already leaning. The arborist was afraid that that tree would come over in a heavy wind.
So it sounds like any accommodation either really runs into other legal problems, other engineering problems, or otherwise won't help the tree survive.
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions for DPW?
I have a question for Chris.
I have a question for Bob. Is this, I walked this block yesterday.
Yep.
This tree is dramatically leaning. Is it the same species of tree as the other 4 trees in the picture?
In that corridor, yes.
That's what I thought. So it just, took off? It grew bigger? If we were to replace it, which is a different question.
Yep.
But is there anything unique about that site? Because we must have this tree on the other side of Main Street, we must have it in other places.
I mean, it could have been when it was installed, when it was planted originally, the depth in which the tree was planted could have been an issue. There is an electrical manhole right next to it, so it's taken up a lot of space in that general area. Not a great place for root growth.
Okay. So, and do we have a policy that if we remove a street tree, we have to replace the street tree?
I don't
Do we have a
think-
policy or a practice or either?
We do have a practice of replacing them, yes, as best we can. We end up putting them on a street tree list that we have for replanting.
Okay.
And one of the things I asked Bob to do too before this was even posted was to be sure the site has to be improved, so he has to get the stump out and then reset both the sidewalk and the curb, because the curb's all buckled too, so that would all have to be done should the tree be removed.
Yep.
And Bill, you had a question for Chris?
Yeah, just so I'm clear, looking at both our bylaw 18-7G and then MGL Chapter 87, Section 4, there's no particular standard we have to apply or finding we have to make. This is just a straight up or down, approve, disapprove, for whatever reasons we have.
As far as I'm aware, yes. It's,
Thank you.
We have received some letters for this. I think if there are other people who would like to comment on it, would be happy to sort of take comments, because I know this is something that has come up both on a sort of accessibility and safety side as well as on a open space side. I'd like to give about 10 minutes to allow for comments and just request that if there are new people who would like to comment who have not submitted a letter, that they are given the opportunity to speak first. And then if we get through that, if you have submitted a letter and would like to add anything, we're happy to have you. Is there anyone who'd like to comment regarding the tree who has not previously provided any written comment? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to add anything to their previously provided written comment for us? And then Brian.
Hi. I'm Susan Fagerstrom. I'm on the Street Tree Committee, but I'm here as an individual because the committee has not had a chance to put anything together. And so, and I did comment, and it was about the fact that this is a 50, 60-year-old tree that is the largest in that line of trees. It's actually beautiful. And it would significantly change the look of the town. But my question here is, have we explored everything to save this tree? I understand that may be on this tree, but when I'm looking at other trees in town, and if we do it one tree at a time, it may end up being with the same answer that these large mature trees will come down, when we should have in our back pocket ways of potentially saving these trees, which means changing the sidewalk and maybe losing a parking space because we so value a mature tree. So I just wanted to add to all of yours thing. The New York Times recently came out with a newsletter that suggested that having shade trees is a health benefit for everybody, and it is a big difference having old mature trees versus planting new ones. I also wanted to give you this article, which is in 6 ways to fix urban sidewalks and save the tree. So part of my subject here is, can we wait a moment and say, could we redirect and maybe use a parking space here? Could we build a ramp? Which I haven't heard is one option, which is another option on that. It's almost a little bit like saying this one's a very tough spot, but we have other trees in town that will come up. And if we can learn as much as we can on this tree, even if ultimately the decision is to take it down, we will have learned a lot for saving the other trees. The town has lost about net 20% of its canopy, and we're trying to stabilize that and grow it here in town as opposed to losing more trees. So I'm here to try to save as many mature trees as we can and be creative. I had originally offered to donate money in terms of an arborist, but I'd be more than happy to donate money to the town to try to have a little bit further study to say, are there any other options we could explore? And it would be a learning for many more sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, do you want, actually, if we can give you a copy of this one, because I believe that some of these have been looked at, and given also the nature of the current width of the sidewalk and accessibility standards, I think it might be that some of them are just not possible to resolve. Brian, do you want to come up?
Thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. Brian Vernalia, 19 Sergeant Road. I did submit a letter. I have some additional comments I'd like to make beyond what's just in the letter, although some of it is also a little bit of what I said in the letter. I'm here tonight to object to the proposed removal of this street tree at 612 Main Street. These comments are presented solely in my personal capacity as a Winchester resident, although in fairness, I am a member of the Permanent Street Tree Committee as well. We've seen a significant decrease in the tree canopy coverage across town, of which I know you're aware. And while the town only controls some of the trees, this is one such tree. The tree in question is a healthy honey locust and situated along the Gasoline Alley corridor of Main Street, an area along where the gas stations are a little bit further along that have significantly less tree canopy than other parts of the town center. Even under optimal conditions, replacing a mature tree with a new planting will require 30 or more years to achieve a comparable canopy coverage and shade benefits. As summer temperatures continue to rise, mature street trees provide a vital heat mitigation, and removing healthy, mature canopy trees directly increases to building cooling costs and negatively impacts public comfort along this vital commercial corridor. This tree is an asset of the town. We often put a price tag on a town asset. What will it cost to replace a fire truck or a roof? In this case, we're talking about something that is essentially irreplaceable, and even attempting to do so by planting a mature tree as mature as possible would come with significant costs. And I hope that you'll factor in that when you consider removing this tree and comparing it to other alternatives. I'm also concerned about the precedent this will set. There are some other mature trees along Main Street that also impact the sidewalk. In the letters in your packet, there are already requests for other trees to be removed as well. You will see some of them come before you in the coming years. And what you decide now, how you go about weighing the options, the costs, will serve as a blueprint for future trees in our downtown. Lastly, the timing of the public hearing and this meeting tonight have come between meetings of the Permanent Street Tree Committee, who are tasked also with looking at such issues. I would ask that you allow them to consider this and make a recommendation at their meeting this coming Friday. In summary, I'd like to ask that you slow down, take into account the value of this tree and the true cost to replace it, seek a recommendation from the Permanent Street Tree Committee, and consider alternatives to removal. Never more apropos is the phrase, measure twice, cut once, than when cutting down a tree. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone additional who would like to speak regarding the tree?
Hello, everyone. My name is David Orico. I manage the property at 612, 626 Main Street, and I've managed it for, I'm going to say 28 years. So I've watched that tree and very familiar with the situation, which is it has grown so much that it is created, in my opinion, a hazard for both pedestrians and, in particular, I manage the property that I manage. We have a resident who is disabled and has to walk past that on that sidewalk every day. If I could, I did make some handouts with some photographs.
You just hand them all to me and I'll pass them down.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So doing some research, in my opinion, what controls this situation is the American with Disabilities Act. And they have specific guidelines on many things. And if you research it, they have guidelines regarding sidewalks and how they're constructed and how they have to be maintained. So my research showed that the allowed vertical change in a sidewalk should be no greater than 1/4 of an inch. And if you look at, so what I did was, the first photograph is I put a 2x4 across the sidewalk, put a level there, and then the second photograph shows that the height differential is 5 1/8 inches. So again, ADA would say 1/4 of an inch. The height differential, which you can see with the photograph, is 5 1/8 inch. And the other requirement with ADA is that the slope should be, I'm not an engineer, but it says a running slope less than or equal to 5% and a cross slope of less than or equal to 2%. The slope in this situation is 11.36%. The third photograph shows what we're dealing with. Again, it's a volcano that is uplifting the sidewalk and the soil and the bricks, which just makes it a very unsafe
situation for just residents that may not have disabilities. And then the photo after that again shows how much that the sidewalk is lifting up. The second to last photograph shows you there is a handicap parking spot, and I did excuse the terrible artwork. I did an arrow showing where my resident goes from Main Street, her apartment, to the handicap parking spot. And then the last thing that I wanted to bring up, the last two photographs are because the sidewalk is lifted up so much that another problem is that the little snow plow that the town uses really does not fit through the opening. So when that plow machine goes through, this was from the last winter, the blade hits the tree and our wall, the corner wall. So, which also, so if you really can't properly plow that area, that accentuates the dangerousness of that sidewalk area. And obviously, it's used a lot by pedestrians. It's a beautiful brick walkway, but in my mind, this is a serious liability issue. I've been pursuing this for more than a year, and I know that the town and the DPW has done a yeoman's task to research this, talking to an arborist and looking at things that could be done. Nobody wants to get rid of a tree. I don't want to get rid of a tree, and hopefully, if this moves on, there will be another beautiful tree, and I don't know if I'll be there another 28 years, but that's the goal. The number one goal is protection of pedestrians, and my personal opinion is that this situation is controlled by the American with Disabilities Act. They have guidelines, and my interpretation is that we've gone well beyond the allowable guidelines for safety at this location.
Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, free to respond.
Thanks.
Okay?
Thanks.
All right. So, Bob, any additional comments that y'all have in terms of the feedback or anything? I understand, there have been a number of things that you've looked at. It sounds like it's just kind of reached
Right.
the point where there's not a viable solution that also maintains.
Yeah, we've looked at all kinds of solutions for this over the last year, but I haven't found anything that would work. Just because you get the alleyway next door, the manhole, the gas valves there. I mean, just to meet the slopes from front to back and, along the path, I just don't see it happening.
Can you speak to the snow plow? Because we had two massive storms. We select board received a lot of feedback from residents around our sidewalks. Can you speak to what Mr. Rico had mentioned around the ability to actually plow both in the space that's left? Because this tree seems to be closer to the buildings than the other trees along that stretch, because like I said, I walked it yesterday. So both between the distance between the tree and the building and then the slope, how effective is our plow?
So we can
clearing
only
that
send
space?
one of our machines down there. We have a very small Bobcat that we send down there. That's the only piece of equipment that will fit through there. And even at that, it's tight. So it does limit what we can do down there.
I assume the problem is not just with the width, but also the discrepancy in the height?
Correct.
Because you can't get a flat plane of a plow.
Right, and that height is, every year it's increasing more and more, so that's the issue. Yeah.
Mike, I made myself a sign to make sure that I remembered you were on the phone, so if you have any questions, please go ahead.
No, thanks, Anthea. I'm not sure if we're kind of shifting the discussion now or we're going to vote, but I think I'm ready when everybody else is.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any further questions.
Do we want Bob to weigh in on the 6 things that we could do to not lose the tree?
Yeah, I've seen these before. This is stuff that we look at all the time.
And you,
So, I mean, it's not a location that we can meander the sidewalk unless you want to put it out into the road and take away a parking space. The rubber sidewalk tiles, again, that's another issue where we have to meet slopes. Even if it's rubber tiles, we have to go above that 6 inches that Mr. Rico spoke about by putting a bedding material on that and that material. That means we need at least 25 feet of slope. So we'd have to go back 25 feet with that just to be able to hit the slopes. And that doesn't even talk about from front to back. We'd probably end up having to put another piece of granite so that we can get the cross slope. So you'd have a little step off before the road. And the same with elevating over roots. Of course, we can't narrow the sidewalk slightly in that area. Pruning the roots, again, like the arborist said, if we cut those roots, the tree's prone to go over. And then suspended slab sidewalks, it's not exactly the area to be able to end up with a floating slab in that way. You'd still have to go back to 25 feet to get the slopes. That would throw off the alleyway and the entrance into the building. So these are common things that we look at.
I appreciate the research, and I appreciate
Yeah.
the feedback
Yeah,
from
we
you.
spent a year looking at different things,
Okay.
different ideas to do over there.
Who would have thought we would use Pythagoras so much in a select board meeting?
if that's it, then I'll make the motion and move that pursuant to MGL Chapter 87, Section 4, and Section 18-7G of the Winchester Code of Bylaws, the Select Board approves the proposed removal of the public shade tree located at 612 Main Street.
Second.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that as well?
That's the motion that we had prepared in our packet, but yeah, if you have something to add to it.
Yeah, I just want to say that maybe we could also ask DPW to, prioritize the evaluation of replacement and kind of reconstructing that area, just so it's not just put, at the bottom of the list. I mean, I think that the select board sees this as a priority. So if we vote to remove it, then also kind of put it at the top of the list.
I disagree with that. So
Is there a proposed time frame that this would be done in already? Like, is there?
We'd like to get it done before the winter, so we take the tree down and start getting the stump out so that we can get it during the good construction season.
Okay. So I don't.
I did ask Bob to prioritize this clearly because we don't want to. This came during the winter. We have a season before it. But we want to get this clearly cleaned up now. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a priority to get. And I've talked to Bob about this, so we need to get this. A tree couldn't be replanted probably till next year, but the cleaning up the site needs to be done this fall. So it is a priority on my list for sure, Mike.
Yeah. Certainly the removal, if we vote to remove it, is, and maybe just a kind of a heightened evaluation, of it for next year, so we can address it, because it's, with everything going on, I could see that it would be, we could lose track of it, and once it's removed. So that was my only suggestion.
Yep, we'll keep it on our operational schedule. We'll take care of it.
Okay.
Okay. So are we okay with the motion as proposed that matches our yellow sheet and confident that we've prioritized this?
Yep.
And we have a second. Do I need to do a roll call if Mike's on the phone, or can we
Yes.
just? Okay, so we'll do a roll call, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Michelle,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay, I vote yes as well. My one additional comment beyond this is I think it would probably be helpful in the letter from the DAC. They recommend that the town develop a long-term plan to maintain all trees and create safe and accessible sidewalks throughout the town. I think it may be helpful if the DAC and Permanent Street Tree Committee are able to communicate and just make sure that in if providing some recommendations, that those things both prioritize maintaining the tree canopy as well as how to create safe and accessible sidewalks, so that we can kind of start to find solutions earlier in time. So. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks, DPW. Thanks for everyone who spoke. We are going to move on to the remaining portions of our agenda, starting with our consent agenda. Thanks.
Move that the Select Board approves the consent agenda as presented in the revised agenda for August 24th, 2026.
Second.
Okay. Roll call. All those in favor? Michelle?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. All right, and then we have a grant to accept.
Move that the Select Board accepts the donations and grants as presented on our agenda for August 24th, 2026, specifically the EEC Stabilization Grant in the amount of $13,720 for Kid Connection /RAP EEC childcare license for the month of August 2026 in the Recreation Department.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Michelle?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay. Why don't, Chris will do your report, and then we'll go to public comment, just in case anyone is following our agenda to the letter.
Okay. So there are 3 appointments. These are all, one is a promotion and 2 are filling vacant positions. The first is a firefighter paramedic, Joseph Amaro, I met with, and this is backfilling a position we had filled, but unfortunately one of the candidates left the program. So this gentleman is actually paramedic certified, so he'll be on to the academy upon approval. We have an appointment. This is a promotion. This is kind of as, I think we've begun this kind of, we had a retirement, now we had somebody get promoted last meeting. This is somebody being promoted to that position. This is Steve Bolduc. He's been with the town 7 years, but has a long history, has all his licenses, had a great meeting with him, so excited to put him forward to waive the 15-day period. And then I met with Nick, but I have not met Branka yet. Branka Brujizic, I'm probably slaughtering that name. She's actually still, she's coming back from visiting family over in Europe, so she'll be back next week, and I'll meet her then before she actually starts. But Nick said really good things about her, and we do need someone to run the program, so and he's excited about it. So I'm recommending that the Select Board waive the 15-day period, waiting period on all 3 of those candidates.
Move that the Select Board waives the 15-day holding period provided under Section 4-2B of the Winchester Home Rule Charter with respect to the following town manager appointments: the Fire Department firefighter, Joseph Amaro, the DPW promotional appointment of foreman to Stephen Bolduc, and the Recreation Department pre-K director, Branka Bujizic.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Michelle?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Mike?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
And then just quickly, there's a lot of active projects. You're probably starting to see them pop up around town. Everything at the moment is on target. The one behind us here at the library is on target. That's going well. According to the report I shared with you, it's about 75% done, and the goal is substantial completion by the roughly Thanksgiving. And hopefully, if the weather continues to cooperate, that'll be right on target. The work looks good, and it's continuing along really nicely. A lot of other public works projects are starting to happen. The Kerwin Road work on those chicanes is happening.
The what road?
Is it Kerwin? Am I saying
Kenwin.
that right?
Kenwin?
Kenwin, I'm sorry. Apologies. I've got to get better glasses.
Maybe
Maybe I've got to give up squinting. So that's beginning this week. I see Bob's left, but he confirmed that with me last week. The Cambridge Street water main work is going to begin, I believe, next week, but the signs are up letting everybody know. And the Cross Street Bridge, it's not our project, it's the MBTA project. That has been moving along on target. And once we pivot to school, which is actually in only another couple of weeks, we're going. Yeah, is it next week? Wow.
9 days.
Not that you're counting or anything like that. So there'll be additional police details that'll be set up. But again, pedestrian access will remain throughout that project. And again, the work at Mystic School, that's funded to a large extent by a Green Communities grant. Those windows the originals are out and the new ones are going in. And again, that's almost all grant funded, so that's exciting. And I did have some materials. I asked Pete Lawson so I have a bunch of stuff I'll put in your packet for next week just as an update. It's like what they did on their summer vacation, all the work they did at the schools. So there was a lot of projects, small and large, all summer. Anthony and I are going tomorrow to do a look at all of those in person. So I'm going to get a first-hand look at the buildings I haven't been in yet. So that's all gone well. And I know I hate to say this, I know it's August, but that the internal deadline for notices of intent for the warrant is August 28th. That's this Friday. And the actual warrant closing is actually only in September, so that's only a couple weeks away. And I will give you all something at the next meeting, what things look like. There's probably a 10 or 12. Nothing crazy. Some things from Stacy, some things from planning that'll just catch us up on some processes and procedures. So, but that's all coming along, I think, pretty well. But I know it's summer. I'm sorry to mention town meeting, but it's coming up.
So the next packet will have
what we have so far.
potential warrant articles, not public, but what the town hall is producing, or both?
Yeah, well, if I have anything from public, I'll share them. I don't have any yet. Though what we're producing, and obviously it's mostly the NOI prioritizes things that aren't, certain things are in there every time, like the capital plan's going to be in there and the WCCP recommendations. This is other articles mostly.
So I got a request from a resident about the library work. Can you work with the library trustee or director to see if we can, the drop-off box where you used to be able to drive through and return, obviously we can't drive through. Can we see if there's a way to put that thing temporarily on Washington Street or somewhere in the parking lot so people can quickly drop off their books? Given that it's been summer, it's been light, when school's back in session, I'm not trying to create a traffic jam, but if there's a place to put it, I mean, we have ballots out front now at Town Hall for early voting. Is there a place we could put it temporarily to give people a place to return books without having to navigate that parking lot and Washington Street? And the entrance is shifting depending on the week. Right. So if you could look into that, that'd be great.
As you mentioned that, Michelle, I've noticed people doing that. They're scrambling in front of space. They run, they dump the books, and they head out. So let me see what we can find out. That's it.
Yeah, we have the container. I'm just wondering if the container can have a
put it in a
temporary
different place.
home
Yeah.
until
to make it easier.
It's done.
Right.
Because back to school happens, I think people will be doing a lot more.
Maybe if you can just follow up on that, is the issue like when the library is closed being able to drop them off, or is the issue when the library is open not being able to find a spot? And then I wonder if it's like creating just like an area for like library drop off, 5-minute parking, or is it being able to
sounds like it's any time, just not being able to just quickly pull in, throw it out your window.
Yeah, because it's not accessible. It's not accessible right now because of the way it is. Yeah, let me look into that. That's a good request.
We're going to do 5-minute parking. After hours doesn't matter. But 5-minute parking, like whatever we want to solve for.
Right. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. So I guess that's the question.
Yeah, those became very bad. Coas Center one was very popular after COVID and everyone went away. People just liked it, so we kept it. But the parking lot there, you could circle around and come in and out. Can't do that here.
So one thing I jumped the gun on offering you to do the town manager report, and one thing that I wanted to acknowledge is that Anthony made us aware last week that you are the recipient of the 2026 New England the ASPA Award, which is the American Society for Public Administration. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On that. And I'll just read. So Chris was awarded the Robert H. Tex McLean Jr. Distinguished Public Administrator Award, which honors individuals whose exemplary leadership and sustained contributions advance the practice of public administration. Chris received this award in recognition of his transformative leadership as Cohasset Town Manager, including the creation of the town's first dedicated human resources unit, the reorganization of public works, and his work securing Cohasset's first AAA bond rating. Chris's commitment to innovation, fiscal responsibility, collaboration, and community-focused governance exemplifies the values celebrated by this award. So congratulations, Chris, on that award, and Anthony, thank you for sharing that with the board.
Appreciate that. So it's in September. I get to go in September. So
I was just checking that it wasn't a meeting night.
It's a Saturday.
That's the first thing I did was I was getting ready to look at his calendar. It's always Saturday.
Make sure.
Yeah, make sure I'm not booked for something else. So, well, thank you for that.
So we will open it up now to, if there are no other questions on Chris's report, board, we can open it up to public comment. So if anyone's here for public comment, we will allow up to 3 minutes to present your material for public comment. Come on up, Presetti.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Prasetta Kalabi. I'm an ecologist in town, and I'm here to speak to the Forest Ridge project, about which you will hear later in the evening from the chair of Conservation Commission. I've been an ecologist my whole life, and we are in a place, the conversations that I hear about Forest Ridge seem to me short-sighted, or that people are missing the point. We're talking about it as though it's a pretty little add-on, and it's not. It's actually kind of an ecological necessity. I don't do fear-mongering. I don't like when people do fear-mongering, but I feel like there's a reality here that we all know. You don't need to be a scientist to know that the weather is much more extreme than it's ever been. All the flooding and the hurricanes and the tornadoes and landslides and all kinds of dreadful things. And we know kind of why it's happening, which is that the balance between the built and the natural portions of the globe have changed drastically. In the last several decades, we've lost over 40% of the forests, and forests are particularly important to maintaining that balance because they produce oxygen through photosynthesis, they take up the sun's energy through photosynthesis, they provide physical cover, they provide habitat, the roots take water, they absorb all kinds of pollutants, including carbon dioxide. And if you take those all away and you keep building, it's inevitable that you're going to have extreme conditions because you have removed those ecosystem services, as we call them. And this is an opportunity. We talk in town about permanent street tree committee, and we tell people to do pollinator gardens, all of which are good things, but here we have a plot of land that's nearly 14 acres that does all of that already. It's there, it's doing what it should be doing, we're all benefiting from it. And to think about this just as, oh well, it's a little more green space where we can walk, I think is missing the point of this enormous benefit that it can give us. And I'm not the only one who thinks this. Thanks to the chair of the Conservation Commission, she did some amazing work with grant proposals. She put out grant proposals to the federal government. Despite there being a loss of over $100 million in federal grants over the last 2 years of this administration, this project was deemed sufficiently important that we got $1 million federal grant for this project. And that's an extraordinary validation and speaks not only to her grant writing abilities, but also to the fact that this is a project that is recognized as having real merit, sort of partisan neutral merit. It's going to give everybody air. And it's also the case that this is something, we talk about doing this in perpetuity. It's not just for us, it's for our kids and our grandkids, and we've trooped up the planet pretty badly, and one of the important things is to try to redress that, which forests do, and also it gives hope. And again, I work with our high school kids, I work with AP Science, I work with the trash program with high school kids, I teach college. These are all people who've been born in this time of drastic climate change, and it's very hard, it's burdensome for them. And again, I'm not the one who's saying that. The American Child Psychiatry Association 2 years ago put eco-anxiety into their top 5 priorities for the year because it is such a very big issue. I think that some of the moms have been particularly supportive in town because they're the ones who are getting the nightmares and hearing the stories. And so I think this is an amazing opportunity for us. I think we need to take a slightly longer haul. I'll let Tracy Olson talk about the money part, but again, it's a time, and it's a once-off opportunity. It's not even once in a generation, it's a once-off, because once we've built, we're not going to unbuild it. So I'm here to speak on behalf of that and hope that we all do the right thing. I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you.
My understanding is we don't have any motions this evening.
Yeah.
Correct, but we're building the case and trying to help people see that it's more than just a little bit of green space to walk in, that it's really something that has very important ecological consequences, something that's going to benefit everybody.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy, come on up for the comptroller's report.
Good evening, everybody. In your packet, I had provided a memo and a report. It's basically the same you've seen past several years, months. I think the biggest question everybody has is, what do our numbers look like? What were the turnbacks? What was the surplus revenue? And we did close FY26 in good shape. We have about $3.4 million in revenue surplus revenue, which is a combination of all of the local receipts. We did have to lower our local receipt budget because we had anticipated lower new growth and lower state revenue. So in order to balance the overall budget when doing the tax certification and our tax rate certification, I do have to balance it somehow, and I reduced some of the local receipts to make it work. So we knew we were going to have surpluses in various items. So overall, 2.8 million or 2.9 million in local receipts. So that's good news. In relation to the turnbacks, another good story. We have 2.2 million in turnbacks, and that's a combination of various departments. I don't want to say overestimating their needs, but just planning conservatively. And police, fire, DPW, they still have some vacancies, and that's what their budget reflected. They include their vacancies so that they are able to fill those if and when it happens. Those were the major turnbacks. One of the turnbacks is $100,000 roughly for health insurance, which we're going to propose an article, or I'm going to request an article at fall town meeting to reserve that, or request that we use that to fund the FY27 health insurance budget, because we've made some changes to the plan initially that we probably have some holes in that budget. We could wait until the spring to do that, but it might be too late, so something to think about that I'll go over with Chris. But all in all, one of the first pages of the report is the operating reserve percentage. Now it's about 17%, which is great. It's still above our policy. We were going to change our policy if the override passed. So as I know, it's still between 6 and 10%. But if we have another override opportunity and that passes, we might be shifting that up a little bit. So we're still in good shape as far as that's concerned. But as our revenue grows and our free cash, not our free cash, but our operating reserves decline, if we continue using them, it will reduce that percentage. And right now, our free cash will probably be around 21.4 million, between 21.2 and 21.4. The DOR is coming out in early September. I'm a little bit early in presenting this to you all because I knew it's kind of important to get a head start as to where we are with finishing the year. Your next meeting in September was the 14th. I kind of felt that was a little bit late to give you some information, but we just closed the books on the, I'm looking at the calendar, on the 14th. So we got all of our information and numbers ready just to have them ahead of time. So there's still a couple things I need to do with the DOR. They come in and review the numbers and review a checklist. There's a bunch of things to put together, but I think that's where we'll be at. We won't be any higher than 21.4 because it takes off. There's their calculation. I know what they include, but there's other things that they might look at and hit our free cash flow. So the report itself, we go through the general fund revenue, the general fund expenditures, just the free cash usage. We used a little less free cash than we did last year, some to balance the operating budget, some for projects, as you can see in the report. And then, oh, I stapled this upside down. That's nice. The Water Sewer Enterprise Fund and the Rec Enterprise Fund both finished well. They both finished positive. The Recreation Fund will have to do a fall time meeting vote as usual just to change how they're funding their FY27 budget. They have excess retained earnings, so that'll be all right. I don't think Nick, the director, wants to continue using retained earnings to balance the budget, but that's a conversation for a different day as to how to change and run programs. He's always looking for the best way to save money. We have a lot of other outside sources right now that are helping subsidize the operations. Whether or not those will continue and for how long, that's a good question. Water Sewer will have a fall town meeting article again, too, just to true up their debt service and their MWRA assessments. We never know those at spring town meeting time, so the fall town meeting, we're always updating those. But I also included the first year of the CPA fund. We finished in the black, about $753,000. We had estimated our surcharges to be about 1.6 million. They came in about 1.8. What we billed was about 1.8. And we collected pretty close to that. We had some investment income, some penalties and interest for late payments, and we kept the operating budget fairly low compared to what we could. We can budget 5% of the total, but we kept it a little bit low. The CPA committee, the WCCP. We used most of the reserves. We didn't use $539,000 of the annual budget reserve, so that just closes to undesignated. So the DOR is going to certify that balance too, so we can use whatever we had left over this year for projects among the three categories. And then I added just a few other things. I added the special projects, the status of all the different CPA projects. I figured people will be interested in where the CPA projects are at. I always include the departmental revolving funds. These are the funds that we vote at town meeting, their spending cap. The Board of Health clinics, Archival Center, Energy, et cetera, and that's just the activity because those are things that are voted at town meeting. Stabilization funds are always a hot topic to see how much we have at the end of the fiscal year. Health Insurance Stabilization Fund had $81,000 at June 30th, but that was then moved on July 1st to fund some of the budget, so that's down to a couple $1,000. Hopefully we can replenish that or think of another way to fund some of the FY27 needs. And OPEB, we have close to $10 million in OPEB, getting up there. And I included the Affordable Housing Trust Fund because there's been a lot of questions about balances and activity recently. So over time, I just included some of that, and there's about $1.6 million in their fund, and that includes $350,000 from the CPA fund, which we do include in the trust fund, but we do have to carve it out and just track it separately because if there was any money left for 164th Street, we just have to send it back to the CPA fund. And then ARPA, this will go away soon. It's been great. We had $6.8 million of projects. We've spent close to 6.8. We have $25,000 left to spend, and that $5,000 for Welcoming Schools was spent in July. They had a training in June. And then this $19,000 for Everett Ave, that'll be spent before the end of November, and then we will be done. And we'll pay back $5 because it was an overestimate of one of the encumbrances that we had, and the Treasury will have fun spending that. So in a nutshell, that was FY26. I don't know if you guys have any questions. Well, I'll have a July report just to show budget to actual for July at the September meeting.
Great. Thank you, Stacy.
I had a question about reserve fund transfer. So 200 something thousand for energy. Is that because we didn't have solar hooked up at Lynch? What is that's a pretty big nut.
Yes.
And how long were we subsidizing that? I mean, when did we make that reserve fund transfer? Like March, April, May?
We just made that at the end of June. Eversource has not produced bills for us for about, I want to say, since December of 25. So we have unbilled energy usage for 6 months, and a lot of that's not so much the Lynch project, but it's all of our other bills. So we've encumbered our entire energy budget to pay those unpaid bills, in addition to that 268, which I believe was calculated based on the solar not being in place, and that goes back to April of 25, I think. And so we have talked with the contractor. They're going to pay for some of the costs associated with the energy costs that were part of the construction. But once the construction flipped and the substantial completion happened, that's when these bills started being incurred.
Okay, so that's
yes.
Well, we weren't getting bills.
We have not received bills.
So are we now getting bills? Do we need to bring Eversource in to understand?
We should bring Eversource in. I'm telling you right now, there should be some consequences, because how can we operate without having the bills?
Tens of thousands of dollars of unknown liabilities to hit us at the end of the fiscal year. So what is the plan?
They've had a problem with every municipality because they changed their billing process, and it's been an absolute nightmare, not just for us, for everybody. And we've had a lot of very heated calls. That said, I think I believe they've made some progress on this. I haven't had Public Works calling me begging to get them at the table, but we've been prepared to take very significant action on our end as necessary. But it wasn't just us. This is an issue that they had with every single municipality because they changed their billing system, and it caused problems for everybody. But again, as I understand it, they made some progress. But
And we have $600,000 encumbered for their bills.
Some progress is. Do we know that that's the end? Do we know what the finish line is? Is it 600,000? Is it 600,000 is the known, and there's a 200,000 unknown? Like, where are?
No, there's a whole big $600,000 unknown right now. And if we find out that it's more than that, we'll have to go to fall town meeting for a prior year bill, or even spring town meeting for a prior year bill if we don't know the actual bills. The actual bill amounts. But if we come to the point where it's less than 600,000, then that will just close to our fund balance, which I hate to say that we have all this money that we can spend on Eversource bills. We really don't. We want them to be accurate. I just don't understand. Even if their billing system changes, how can they wait this long to send a bill? I just don't understand.
Is our delegation aware of this? I understand other cities and towns, but to stick it to that many municipalities when they're closing the books and may not have, like, this is like unallocated wage reserve, right?
Yes.
You have 600,000 set aside for a bill you might get.
Yeah.
But other municipalities may not. How can that persist? And when is it done?
So we meet on the 14th, which also kind of aligns with us. We're talking about town meeting, if it needs to come to town meeting. Could we just get like a one pager on that, maybe in Chris's report on the status?
Where it's at. Yeah.
Yeah, just the status of it. And
they had a meeting I think 2 Fridays ago. Actually the Friday before I closed in August, so it was like the 7th, and then they were kind of wrapping up their discussion the following week. So that was almost 2 weeks ago. So we can get a status update for the 14th.
Yeah, I think that would just be helpful to keep us updated.
Yes, so
on
that just happened at the end of the year. We were kind of scrambling to make sure we got the bills. We wanted to get the bills as close as to the end of the year as possible. We had till July 15th to settle any FY26 budget items. And so that's all we knew as of July 15th, which is very sad, I know.
It's sad. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of adjectives I would use. But what I'm concerned about is it done? Is it over? Or is it, we've got most of the iceberg revealed. What's left?
That's a good question.
And who can answer that question? Eversource? DPW?
You mean it from their billing? So I believe that our Public Works was very, we have a long history of electrical usage, so I'm fairly confident they've conservatively estimated any kind of expenses we might have. At the same time, again, maybe 2 months ago we had if we do not have some answer, you have no more street opening permits, period. for anything. You're
we
not going
have
to
to
get
have
access
some-
to anything. And they made progress. It wasn't just us. Everyone was in the same boat. I haven't heard anyone coming into my office telling me things are on fire, that there was actually work happening. They were making progress on it. And on our end, we were set up to pay. Let me find out. I mean, I literally just came back in the office this afternoon from a long weekend, so I will follow up and find out where we are. They have to get this resolved. We can't go into another fiscal year with a months of problem. No one can.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Stacy? Mike, any questions for Stacy? Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank
Get
you
you
for
some answers,
getting this
hopefully.
to us so quickly, too, after
Yes.
closing.
And if anything changes after the DOR's review, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia. I'm good. Sorry, I was on mute.
All right. So we have then some committee and commission appointments. So we have, sorry, I'm going to sneeze, maybe? Is it slowing down? Excuse me. So committee and commission appointments, we have for the Energy Management Committee, 3 vacant positions and 3 applicants. I believe 2 of those applicants are here. Brian Gantas and Sachin Malia. So Brian, do you want to come on up, and then Sachin will have you come up next. And I'm correct that Chris Noble is not here, right? Great.
Good evening.
Hi, Brian. So thank you for applying. We have your application materials, and I think we all got these as a separate attachment later this afternoon. So if we have your application materials, if you want to give us, start with your name, your address, and then an overview of why you're interested in the Energy Management Committee. A little bit of your background.
Brian Granitz. I live at 18 Old Village Drive in Winchester. I'm interested in the Energy Management Committee because it kind of really falls right in my wheelhouse of technical experience, and I'm interested in getting more involved in the town and learning more about town government. And so this felt like it was a great opportunity to do so. I have about 15 years of experience, the first 10 as a licensed mechanical engineer in New York City and Boston, and then the past 5 in real estate development in Boston. And so deep technical experience as it relates to building systems and engineering, and then mix that with a real estate background and kind of trying to look at things practically, making sure that we're the initiatives we're looking at have a reasonable payback period, make better financial sense than the alternative options, and I think in my job now, just working across development projects, permitting, the state energy code, working on large projects and kind of coordinating across both new development and management of existing buildings. And so I think it's a lot of good experience that I can bring to this committee.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Brian?
Do you know how to get Eversource to get its bills out? And
I couldn't help but chuckle as I listened to that. I mean, I think the idea of not allowing, you need leverage, unfortunately, and so I think the idea of trying to make sure that you don't have, they can't be opening streets for their own work is a good one. I think we deal with it from time to time too. Just customer service is not great, but what you're describing is a new level of not great, really. I mean, that's pretty, they should be taking this monthly, and most of the meters are electronic, don't need to be physically read anymore, so not too many excuses for that they can use right now, but they do.
yeah, they're a bit of an 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah, yes.
Have you had the chance to attend any energy management committee meetings or observe them? Or?
Yes, I did. So I met Susan McPhee at Town Day and just went over to the wind power booth. Thought it was, wanted to chat and thought it was interesting. I think we deal in the city with the municipal aggregation program, and so was curious to talk there. I then went to a July meeting and looked through some of the past agendas just to get a sense of what the work entails, what kind of experience people are relying on, and then had a separate call with Todd Klosterman, who's the chair of the committee.
Great.
Mike, any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, don't be. I was going to say, Bill and I both have degrees from Georgetown, and I know at one point or another, Georgetown and Syracuse were.
There was a time.
There was a time.
I know.
Embarrassing for us, not for you.
Look at Syracuse now, and it's a different story. So.
Well, Georgetown's not doing great.
It's fair. We should all go back to the Big East.
Yep.
Yeah. We could have a much longer meeting.
One thing we can all agree on with that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Brian. And then
Appreciate it.
we'll have Sechin coming up. So welcome. If you want to introduce yourself, your address in Winchester, and then a bit about your background and why you're interested in the energy management.
Sure. My name is Sachin Malia. I live at 11 Marshall Road, so right across from the rec center, so I see the work going on there. So I'm interested in the position because, so first off, like since I moved to Winchester, I've never been a part of a town where, people are so, invested in their community and involved. That's something that I've never experienced. So I hadn't really seen an opportunity where, I could leverage my experience. I worked in the energy industry since, like my entire career, both on the retail power and now working with generators. I've done like some admin with, helping a renewable site get involved in the Clean Peak Standard program. So definitely interested in, the whole grant and trying to find funding. So think, like Brian, I feel like I can leverage my professional experience, but more on the sort of energy and understanding the language of energy side. Yeah.
Same question I asked Brian. Have you had a chance to attend any energy meetings or watch them?
I have not.
It's not a wrong answer. I'm just curious.
Also another Hoya. So.
Yes. Georgetown. Hoya Saxa.
Been so long since last we met.
Is there anything in your professional experience, sort of in nuclear, large corporations, is there anything that sticks out in your mind that the municipalities like ours or others should be trying to pursue? Is there any ideas that you think that are out there that maybe they're not low-hanging fruit, they're just things we haven't considered that you've just sort of come across in your career?
I think that, a lot of the big trend right now is we are seeing a lot of battery technology being used, and we're installing solar panels at Lynch and a lot of our sites, and we're generating during the day, and that, at least from a cost perspective, batteries can help sort of level out when we're spreading the energy usage, and maybe sort of making up when energy is most costly, although solar pretty much lines up probably when we're using the energy at schools, just because it's busier during those hours. But definitely a way for us to maybe get more usage out of the solar versus just like putting it back on the grid.
Thank you.
Mike, any questions? Mike, if
No, thank you, Anthea. I'm good. Thanks.
Bill?
No, I mean, I'm familiar with many of the companies on your resume and what you'd be doing in those jobs, and I've read through a lot of pitches from Constellation and other energy suppliers and seen what sort of options are out there, so that you're already versed in all that.
Yeah.
It means a lot, so I hope you can bring that experience to the committee as we explore what more we can do to be sustainable and economical with our energy usage.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have 2 applicants here, and then one additional one for the 3 positions. So we could take a motion to appoint for Energy Management Committee. Sorry, Patty, just to clarify, there is no term end dates on these?
There isn't. Just also to add to that is that potentially within the next 6 months, you could probably have Todd coming in requesting that there be end term dates.
Okay.
To change, but that's change has
Okay.
to be changed.
Okay.
But yes, no, there isn't.
Well, I'll start with the ones that are here tonight. I'll move that the Select Board appoint Brian Gantes, Grants, we have typos, sorry, Grants, to the Energy Management Commission for a term for an indefinite term.
Second?
Okay. Okay, any discussion? Okay, do a roll call vote. Bill?
Aye?
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Okay. Then I'll move that the Select Board appoint Sachin Malia to the Energy Management Committee for an indefinite term.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Bill?
Aye?
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay. And then Chris will come in at our next meeting, is that correct? Okay.
Great.
So Chris Noble will join us at our next meeting. So Brian and Sachin, Patty will kind of loop back to you all on next steps. So great. Welcome.
Thanks for applying.
All right. So we will go next to Long Range Financial Planning Committee. So we have 1 vacant position for that, also in indefinite term. And so we have 2 applicants, Peng Peng Kao and Paul Puzangera. So why don't we take Peng Peng first? So welcome.
Thanks.
We have your application, so if you want to give, introduce yourself, give us your address in Winchester, and a bit about your background and why you're interested in applying for this committee.
Sure. So my name is Peng Peng Cao, and I live on 20 Elm Street, just about 2 minutes walk here. My family, we moved to Winchester about a year and a half ago, and we have 2 little kids going to elementary school. Since we moved here, we absolutely love the town. We go to the library all the time. My 8-year-old this summer applied to be a part-time farmer's market vendor, and she's selling her arts and craft, and we just really experienced the profound kindness and the support from the community. So when I saw this opening, I was really excited about this opportunity to contribute my time and experience in any way that I can to help the community. So for my background, I'm a trained PhD chemist, and I've been doing cancer research for the past 15 years. And for the past 10 years, I have been leading large, complex matrix cross-functional teams to do cancer research to develop solid tumor drugs in the biotech industry. And even though I'm not a trained expertise in finance, but my job as a large program lead is to project budgets and funding, how to source, relocate the resources when the resource is limited. And also my expertise is to work with large cross-functional teams, usually when the teams have competing priorities, how do we make the decisions? And me as a trained scientists looking at data, making like decisions with uncertainty. And I think that's where my strength is, to contribute to the committee. And more recently this summer, I have transitioned to a really new, exciting opportunity. I joined a nonprofit organization called Science from Scientists, where we will work as science educators to support communities that don't have the funds to have their own science teachers or resources in public schools and all. So since then, like in the past couple of months, I have dived into the nonprofits world, where we're looking at budgets and getting like grants, getting supports from donors, from the government and all that. So from my experience overall, I bring in my experience from the for-profit and nonprofit organizations to contribute to the community.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions?
Questions from the board? So, and just for background, Michelle and Bill are kind of our select board reps to long-range financial planning, so your questions will likely come from this side of the table.
So you're doing a lot of work in team building right now in your job, and you've gotten involved in some nonprofits here in town. What have you learned so far about kind of board dynamics and getting people to, trade-offs or consensus? Not that everything's consensus.
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, like working in a large teams, one of the most important thing is the people. And to me, like when you have a relational relation with the people you work with, everything is just easier. In my professional job, doing science is always the most important thing to me, is to good science with good people. And with a great team dynamics, everything just gets resolved. And in the nonprofits, it's very different from my biotech job, but the team dynamics, how everyone is so positive, it's all for the team. When the team wins, everyone wins. And I think even though sometimes we may not agree with everything, but just focus on the goal, the end goal is the most important thing.
Just follow-up question. Do you have, in your current job or in your most recent role, do you have responsibility for managing a budget?
Yes, absolutely. So as a program lead, every fiscal year, my job is to foresee the whole project's budget. So the latest project that I was on for the past 2 years, it was a large collaboration project with MD Anderson, the Cancer Center in Texas. It's roughly $28 million budget. And every year, the flow of just FTEs, it's about 1.2 billion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I think you and I agree with you, focus on how, when it comes to team dynamics, one of the important things is to focus on the goal.
Yep.
And what you're trying to achieve and what the purpose that you're aiming towards might be. So what do you see to be perhaps the first priority for something like the Long-Term Financial Planning Committee, which is a brand new committee for this town, and of course inspired by other towns, but new to us?
Yeah, I think one of so for a new committee, I think one of the first priority will be to review the data. Right? Like, what is our financial health? Mm-hmm. Are we trying to close some gaps? Are we trying to sustain the growth? Are we trying to increase some growth? And just to review the data from the past, just to have a basic understanding where we stand now and what we try to achieve. So then, like, the next step will be a goal setting across the whole community, across the committee, and then to see like what is the goal. And once we align on that, I think we can chart out the next steps.
Sure. And I guess with a follow-up to that, you're relatively new to the town.
Yeah.
Not like I've been around here forever either. We did go through something called the State of the Town process last year. Have you had a chance to look at any of the work that was done there, reports that were created, or data that was gathered through that effort?
Full transparency, not yet, but I'm a quick learner. So this is where I'm now, and I'm full on in this season of my life where I'm transitioning to more nonprofits and municipal specifics. So this is where I'm diving into now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. You guys ask great questions on this. Mike, any questions?
No, thank you.
Great. Good. Thank you so much. And then Paul, come on up.
Good evening. Hi. I'm Paul Puzingara. I live at 263 High Street. I'm a 40-year resident of Winchester. I've had the opportunity to serve the town. I've served multiple terms in town meeting, multiple terms on the FinCom, and I was vice chair of something called the Facts Committee, which predates all of you, but it has many echoes of what I think this committee is hoping to do. And so that was a very illuminating experience and my first introduction to public finance and municipal finance. On the professional side, two different worlds which in some odd way intersect here. Professionally, I'm trained in finance. I have a bachelor's from Harvard in economics. I have an MBA from MIT in finance. I've spent most of the early part of my career helping large Fortune 500 companies build financial systems, large data warehouses, analytic systems, forecasting systems, budgeting, long-range planning, and the emphasis was always on assembling these large data sets, doing analytics, providing reporting, create the models that they needed to move forward. Those were for companies like the World Bank, General Motors, Sun Oil Company, name brands. I also started a company. The first few years I worked for some of my professors out of MIT and then started my own firm and got to see the ugly side of planning when you actually have to pay the bills yourself. And so built a company from scratch for about 15 years. An enjoyable but scary part of my life. It was very satisfying. Had some time as after selling that company as being CEO of some companies that focused on knowledge management, a little different aspect of planning. And then the most recent 10 years of my career, totally different, but very much dovetails. I've served as the Chief Information Officer for the town of Andover. And so I've been a department head for the last 10 plus years. And very focused in being part of the budget process, presenting to all of the committees, helping build the overall budget structure, and providing the technology infrastructure to make that happen. And so it's been when I read the prospectus here, the opportunity to have done things in the private sector, helped Winchester in an earlier time think about these problems, and then have to confront them in real life as a department head seemed to be calling me. So I'd be honored to serve.
Great. Thank you. Questions from this side of the table?
Yeah, I'll start. I like the statement I got from my experience with spreadsheets. So some of us, if you can imagine, this has a lot of spreadsheets, not that Ms. Cow doesn't deal with spreadsheets as well. How would you say, so you've been a department head in the town of Andover, you were here in Winchester, we had an override, this is sort of it's facts, if it's facts 3.0, right, it's probably been through a few iterations. We didn't try to recreate facts again. We did try to recreate state of the town. We didn't take 18 months. I was the vice chair of that committee. Now we're trying to figure out what could be the state of the town light kind of effort that is maybe not the same lift of 15 years of data, but a more ongoing exercise of data gathering. So how would you kind of translate your current Andover IT budgeting process to a 3-year, 5-year budget cycle? Like what would you be looking at to build that in Andover?
So conveniently, I was CIO for about a dozen years, and then 2 years ago, I shifted to a part-time role. And what I've been doing the last 2 years is developing the broad outlines of a strategic planning system, because the one-year budgeting system is inadequate to address the long-run consequences. And so I've spent some time building the framework of a system that helps provide project management overview, long-run financial planning, but in a strategic context linked to goals. And so, my observation is municipal budgets, I have this pot of dough, how will I spend it? Strategic planning needs to be more the other way around. What are the priorities? How do I allocate funds to meet those most effectively? And so it's very early in the process. The town has not adopted it yet, but I spend a lot of time doing research, developing prototypes, and building some frameworks for doing that.
And my second question is, do you have within that framework of Andover, have you looked around some other, communities, and are you kind of lifting and shifting? Are there tools out there that you think this town ought to, I'm not saying like software, but even like structures, processes, guidelines, or are there things you think that you could lift and shift?
Yeah, so the same question when I was interviewing for the CIO, I have the opportunity to steal from the private sector as well as the public sector. And so a lot of my work, was built on strategic planning frameworks that have evolved over the last 15 or 20 years, a lot of it coming out of Harvard Business School, and scorecard initiative, balanced scorecard initiatives, score matrices, other kinds of tools and techniques to evaluate and illustrate strategic alternatives. Other towns, small towns don't do this very well. Larger communities have made efforts toward it, and there's things to steal from Boston and some of the larger communities. So I think there's ample resources to build upon, but it requires a reframing of a mind shift to look at the process a little differently.
Thank you. Turn over to Bill.
Oh, and I'll say, I did look at some software, and there are several companies that do a lovely job of creating technologies for you to, for department heads to enter priorities, enter projects, track them, budget against them, and see how they're going. So there are opportunities to be much more significantly quantitative about this.
Data-driven. Got it. Okay.
So first off, you went on about your education. And since we're calling out shared experience, I think we went to the same high school.
Oh,
good for us.
Which is why I ended up back at Andover.
I was going to phrase my question under Finis Origine Pendit and see if you knew that and stuff. But, that would bore everybody else in the room. So I'll give you the same question that I gave the other applicant this evening. The Long-Term Financial Planning Committee is new to our town.
Yes.
But it sounds like you have some experience with similar efforts, and I'll ask about that in a second. What do you think the first priority needs to be in terms of kicking this committee off here in Winchester and getting it focused on some sort of immediate goal?
So my observation from watching many municipal committees is that they tend to flounder if they're not given a very clear mission statement from the people founding the committee. So I've only seen a very tiny blurb, and so it would be helpful for this body or the town manager to be able to spend some time to begin to lay out some very broad vision for as a starting point for the committee to allow them to move forward. I've unfortunately gone through several IT planning committees that were founded by the town with very good intentions. No clear goals. We would meet, we'd have pastry, and we'd move on. And so I'd like to not do that. I think the short-run goals are focus on creating a shared vision of the challenges. Right? There's solutions are kind of down the road. I think you want to understand, do we have a common agreement on what the challenges are? What's our thought about methodology for addressing those challenges? And I think, we need to resist the temptation to just immediately jump to quick fixes. And I think it's central to do this deeply in consultation with the town in terms of, if we don't do this as part of, if we don't change the budgeting process to a financial planning process that has long legs, then this will just be another report that sits on the shelf. The goal really is to create a change for the town that is ongoing and self-sustainable. Hopefully, the committee puts itself out of business. Perhaps it can serve as a review committee, but many of the stuff could be part of the FinCom. I would prefer to see this as an agent of change to create this different vision of thinking about our planning and budgeting, and then turn over the operations to the town and to the in-place committees.
Mm-hmm. When you said we should avoid quick fixes in there, what were you lumping in that call out?
Oh, it's very easy, if we were to go, so when we did facts, we interviewed all the department heads, and everybody had their perspective, and from long time here, there's all sorts of low-hanging fruit, and we don't have to just ignore those, but they are but they are known. There's certainly a valuable effort in collecting those, but I don't think the focus of the committee should just be on those, because that doesn't solve the long-run problem. I mean, if I can, so it's terrific to find an efficiency somewhere in a department and take advantage of that, and we should totally do that, but we shouldn't view that as the goal.
Sure. And then, am I correct that Andover does have some version of a long-term financial planning committee, or be it a committee or a system, or?
No. So the town manager, Andrew Flanagan, is an extremely capable finance guy, and he has developed a long-range financial plan and a set of parameters that he's used to govern the town over the last 5 or 6 years, and he's created a great sense of kinship between the boards and the town staff around a very predictable set of spending increases, allocations for capital, short-run capital, long-run capital, and so forth. And that has created a much more friction-free environment at town meeting and through the whole budgeting cycle.
Okay.
Mike, any questions?
No, thank you, Anthea.
I don't have any additional questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I do want to thank you for thinking about relocating the library bookstop. My daughter's mobility challenged, and she reads multiple books a week, and she's very concerned about the growing stack in her house she can't return and the late fees. So thank you.
It's a real need.
See, he added extra stars to that one. So. All right, so we have 3 applicants for one position. Then just we interviewed Jean-Baptiste Labarthe at our last meeting. So we have 3 applicants for the Long Range Financial Planning Committee. If we want to open up some discussion here, or if anyone has, well, we'll start with some discussion.
Yeah, and I just want to close the loop for Bill and Mike's benefit that I mentioned last time. We had 3 interested parties. Mr. Puzangaro was one, Ms. Cow was one, and there was a third gentleman who had reached out but didn't respond, and then today just closed the loop and said, I've missed the deadline and I won't be responding. So, but I appreciate that we were able to get some applications in from folks who expressed some interest. Just wanted to, there isn't another person out there that I'm aware of, but we do have 3 folks in front of us right now.
Well, I think I'll just say it is always good when we have a lot of qualified applicants for the positions we're interviewing for. It makes it hard on us when this comes up. And so it's just to put that out there that for folks who are not appointed, we have plenty of other ways that we would love you to get involved and sort of share your expertise as well, because we really need a growing volunteer base. We have a small but mighty volunteer base, but it is really great to get more interest and to get more people involved with the town's boards and committees.
So I echo all of that, and we have, and we can only pick one. So of the 2 that we don't pick, I would encourage you to look at Finance Committee and other committees in town. From my perspective, Mr. Puzangaro, from a currently working in municipal finance and working actively, have engaged in long-term financial planning for a town, to me, stands out as the most qualified to join this committee. The prior service on facts, albeit 20-plus years ago, it's a different lift, but it's still a related goal. But I think having experience with strategic planning and working within a structure that's mature and developed currently in Andover, that's what we're trying to get towards. And I think the idea that we're trying to work this committee out of a job, I think is exactly that's the right vision, to give the manager a structure and give all the boards and other departments clarity and expectations. I think that's where we're trying to go. And I do think there is a charge, we just probably didn't write it down, but there is a charge probably in one of our packets from a few months ago. So to me, that seems like the obvious choice for where we are in this group's life cycle and what experience he can bring to help move us along.
I would echo, I think, all of that. This is a new committee. That doesn't mean we need to reinvent the wheel. We have often looked at Andover as a town that has a good system set up and running. And given that I think we have somewhat of a short window before we have to start considering whether another override's being put on a ballot, we need a long-term financial planning committee that's going to give us a recommendation and do the work to make sure it's a good one. Somebody who has already been through the experience before, who has collected data here around Winchester, who appreciates the fact that numbers are numbers and municipal budgets are municipal budgets, and town meeting is town meeting is a huge advantage to getting that done. And this is another situation I wish we could put everybody on, but then the committee would just be too large and unwieldy. But
yep.
I think Paul is bringing something that nobody else on the committee right now currently has, which is being part of the success of a similar effort in another town. And that puts him apart from even all of us at this table right now, except for Chris, because you have your award-winning time from Cohasset behind you.
I think what both of you have said is pretty spot on, and I don't have anything to add to that, and welcome a motion if someone's ready to make a motion.
Does Mike want to? I don't know.
Mike, yeah.
Probably not.
Mike is on the phone, so Mike, if you want to jump in with anything else.
Yeah. No, I would just kind of concur with what everyone said. I mean, I think that, getting the right level of experience on this particular committee is essential. Broad experience is essential, but what I've seen really is important is people understanding how municipal finance works and how municipal government works. And so, that would also kind of tip the edge. For me, I think one of our biggest struggles lately is that we have had just an embarrassment of riches with applicants for these committees. So I certainly agree with those that mentioned that hopefully we can kind of steer the other applicants that we do not appoint to some of our other committees that are have work that is very much related to what this is. So I concur. Thank you.
Thanks. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we appoint Paul Puzzagero, did I pronounce that correctly? Close enough? To the Long Range Financial Planning Committee for an indefinite term.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Okay, roll call, beginning with Bill.
Aye.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
Mr. Puzzagero, there is a web page on our town website for the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, which does have purpose and duties and a number of other bullet points. If it does not meet your standards, please bring that up at the first meeting.
All right.
And we do hope to get a meeting on the books in the next couple of weeks. So Patty will be in touch, right?
Yeah.
The survey and stuff.
We have a scheduling survey that's been sent to the members, and with a few just kind of introductory questions to help us all get in the same direction. Fantastic.
Thank you.
And I beg every other applicant to find something else to apply for. We really do need all of you.
Or if there's other things you're interested in, reach out and we can help you see what's available as well.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So we will move on to old business. And just for Patty and Chris and Anthony, a note that we underestimate the amount of time we need to do to interview people. All right, so we are going to start with old business. First thing is the town manager evaluation. So we discussed this at our last meeting and are looping back around to it. We all completed our evaluation of Chris for the July 13th meeting. We have in the packet both the summarized scores and select board comments from that evaluation. We also have what Chris shared with us, which was the summary of his goals and his progress towards these goals, which he shared with us on, I think, ahead of that meeting on the 13th. So what we have in the contract, again, is as it was developed, was that Chris scored a 3, averaged a 3 on each of the sections within the evaluation, as well as received a rating from the majority of board members to continue, and that we would proceed with renewal of his contract through December 31st, 2027. So I think what we want to do tonight, certainly if there are additional, I guess, summary, I reviewed and my sort of overall feedback is contained within there, but if there's additional feedback that we want to emphasize, we can take a few minutes to do that. Otherwise, we can go back to the motion that we need to make in order to exercise the option to renew the contract, and then what we will consider as well. So both Chris and Stacy are hires of the select board, and our town manager evaluation process is actually fairly recent in the form that it's in. We don't have a great process that we've used for Stacy. I think it's been kind of like, I don't know what word I would use, but like we just
informal.
Yes. And so I was discussing with Chris both like we need to do something more formal for Stacy, both played out in the contract and would be appropriate and helpful for an employee, as well as just a conversation with Chris around the goals of how we look at this quarterly. So we're kind of looking at the calendar and thinking if we have our July review and then quarterly goals in October, January, and April, that kind of gives a good look at it as we go into our town meeting in October. At the start of the calendar year is kind of a reset, and then April is a nice time because that's right after the spring elections. So if we have new members of the board, then they can see kind of like quickly get an overview into what the town manager's goals are and what sort of what that looks like.
I think you also wanted to talk about updating my goals to maybe the next meeting, because we're 6 months in. We're also things change, and to think for the next next cycle, whether it's continuing the ones that are there or amending or updating them. So.
Yeah. So we would bring for our meeting on the 14th is to look at the goals that Chris had made, because when we did put these together, also looked at them as like, well, this is kind of you've been here for like a month, so put some goals together and what's like achievable and realistic goals that we'd be able to measure you against in the July timeframe. So certainly makes sense to add that in. So I will.
So Patty, in the tool itself, there's coming year goals. Did that make it into the summary, or do you not? Do we have that data? Because I had put some in
the tool
with mine. In the evaluation tool itself, there's a section.
There's a summary on page 104.
So there's the beginning of
summarizes the
some?
goals.
So all of, and the tool itself came from you filling out the evaluation forms.
Yep.
There has been nothing else that has been added to it.
Okay. But that's a starting set.
Yes.
Okay. And then are we appreciating that Stacy needs probably something more formal and Chris, we're looking at quarterly. What about town council? What's our timeline for that?
Town council's not our employee, so we don't have anything within our contract with town council in terms of an annual review with them.
Do we have any plan to do feedback between now and December?
So, yeah.
That contract's December 1.
Yeah, I think that's it's a bit more of a separate conversation. We have a legislative, not a legislative, sorry. Begins with an L, litigation
update, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a litigation update that we're working on getting from, getting on our agenda, coming from town council, and then there's been just some conversations coming up as it relates to a lot of activities that have been taking place of how we sort of strengthen a process for town council and set that up. So, but I think that's separate from where we are right now talking about.
Agreed. I'm just trying to understand between September and December, if we're trying to do a Chris check-in in October, a town council before December 1, and then a comptroller in January? Trying to understand the sequence.
I don't think they're connected to each other in terms of sequence.
They're not. I'm just trying to understand what the season looks like.
Okay.
I mean, we can take it up in September 14th. That's
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I don't know, Chris, if you want to give us some suggestions on that, but I don't think, I'm not prepared to discuss what we're doing with town council at this point.
Yeah, I think the board should talk about that a little bit more. I mean, every board's been different, and I know you've gone through, the town here has had a little history. So I think I think setting something up so there's regular sort of some kind of touch base with council is a good idea. It's also November's town meeting, so maybe doing it. I don't want to burn your calendars here, but I think talking about some kind of parameters and then having them in maybe in October or right after town meeting because the contract is there a renewal. I honestly I'm not super.
It's
familiar.
December 1.
It's like so you do a 1-year contract with renewals.
What? Yeah.
You probably should.
We can take this up in their next meeting in
Yeah.
September. I'm just trying to, with town meeting in mind.
Yeah.
If there's a plan to try to do a tool or something formal with the comptroller for January, February, and then there's the town council in December, we've got some work to do.
Yeah.
In a short runway to do it in. So we can go back to Chris's review. That's fine.
Yeah. But we'll put that as a future item in terms of town council. Couple things.
So I was just wanted to share a little bit of feedback, I think, for Chris. So I think you got the scores you did. I think the summary is accurate. I'd like to see, I think, where some areas of improvement around kind of timeliness of response, and then I think that whether it ties into long-range financial planning. But when you first got on board, it was developing a management dashboard. That was an ask in February, March. Would like to see that be a short-term goal and when we all get to goals, and I realize we're not doing that yet, but I think being able to actually see what's going on at a given time would be helpful for all of us. I mean, the Eversource bill was a surprise to me. I understand comptroller's been dealing with it, but those kinds of surprises would be nice to, they can pop up, but what else is on the horizon? So that'd be, I think, my high-level feedback on kind of the operation itself.
Thanks, Michelle. Bill or Mike, anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we're doing this. We, since I've been on the board, we've always had the kind of public review of town managers, and so I know it kind of appeared in the contract initially that it was just kind of a function of the numbers and coming up with an average above 3, but it's important that it also clarifies that it's a vote of majority of the select board, and that residents get to hear what our feedback is. And I think Chris coming in at a very difficult time and going through an override and all of the ups and downs of that, going through the budget process, it really was very, very difficult. I think that he did a great job. I kind of echo some of Michelle's concerns, and what I hear from residents quite a bit is that there's just kind of a black hole where requests go in and there's no response. So there's no response coming from the select board. There's no response coming from management. And so I think that's what, once we get our sea legs a little bit and get a little bit more on firmer ground going into town meeting, I think that's the biggest thing that I hear kind of more universally is I think we need to identify, our priorities to the community as well, and so they know that if we do respond, it may not be the way that they like. If we're focusing on financial matters, or we're focusing on capital or CPA or whatever our priorities may be. So that's what I would say. I think Chris has done a great job coming on board. I hear great things from staff in particular, which is not always the case, but I do think that his direct outreach has built a lot of trust in town hall and throughout the police, fire department, and DPW, and a lot of the kind of other divisions of the town. So I think response time and I think also not just communicating with the chair and vice chair. That's really more around scheduling, but kind of communicating with all of us on a regular basis. We shouldn't really have to break the door down to get a response on things. And so I'm happy to move Chris's contract forward, for at least that next 1 year cycle. I mean, I also think that we should consider that it's not entirely the best government to just be having 1 year contracts for our chief executive. So just something for us to consider more towards the end of the year. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. I think one of I will say as we built the contract in the winter, I think that was one thing that we kind of stuck to, is the way that we set it up. As we discussed at a previous meeting, we can certainly put some time into an executive session to discuss extending the contract beyond the 27 date. This is just what was in the contract. So, it's certainly something we can put on exec in an upcoming session as well if we want to extend that to sort of what would be closer to a 3-year contract. So something that we can talk about there. Anything to add, Bill, or anything that you'd like to share?
I put everything into the written responses. I know you've read them. I know we've talked about them. I know I've told you before, and I'll say it again. I don't really like how we got you, Chris, but I am very happy that we did. We're lucky that the process didn't give us a choice, but the choice that was forced upon us was you. That's proven again by the award that you've recently gotten, and lucky for us that we're benefiting from Cohasset's loss. But yeah, I would just say I personally find you wonderfully responsive, to the point that I wish you would stop talking sometimes and just move on to the next thing. But you've always been there for my questions and my concerns, and I look forward to working with you more into the future, and would happily have a discussion to talk about a longer extension during an executive session at a very recent meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, my comments are also well summarized within. I think, as we've all acknowledged, Chris came in during a very difficult time. It was not certainly I wouldn't wish that on a new town manager. So a tough time to come into town. Also dealing with just, following a lot of turnover in the town manager's office and sort of helping to get things in place to run pretty smoothly there. So appreciate all the work that was done, managing just some of the challenges that come up and keeping sort of trying to keep those from hitting the board in ways, I think has been really helpful. And I appreciate, we have the updates to the goals, which kind of address where you are in getting towards these things. We've done, I think what I would like to see us do going forward actually is to be able to have, and I suggest this, and then I'm saying, like, I'm really sorry for suggesting this because I hate when I'm doing an evaluation and you have to write up everything that you've done, and it's like, it's a real pain. It is helpful because we, as a select board, don't have a lot of visibility sometimes into what's happening in the town hall. We see the things that are coming to the select board's office, but we don't necessarily know a lot of the ins and outs of your day-to-day and your day-to-day, especially in terms of sort of the management side of things, as you might have if, like, we were supervisors in a workplace and we're kind of seeing things. So I do think going forward it would be helpful, sort of how you've done in the goals, but also maybe like what are the other things that have that you've been doing, so we can get a better understanding. Because there's some areas where it's just like it's hard, or you say like I sort of can't rate this area because I don't know. So that would be what I have to add. So I think if we're ready, we can take a motion to exercise the renewal option for the contract, and then if we want to discuss more on process for Stacy, we can do that.
Move that the select board exercise the option to renew town manager Chris Senior through December 31st, 2027.
Second.
Okay, great. Any additional comments, discussion? All right, roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Great. All right.
Good, thank you.
Got another 15 months.
You wanted
with you.
it, right?
16 months.
We didn't do all that for nothing.
No, as I said last week, I've enjoyed. It's been a busy ride, but it's been a lot of fun, a lot of engaging. And whether I'm walking around the downtown with Kayla at night, or I'm at the farmer's market, or I'm just on the street, I've enjoyed working with a very diverse cross-section of people across a whole lot of issues. And it's incredibly engaging. I think there's a lot to do here. One of the things that I can now formalize a little bit more is a little bit of reorganization. By the way, I'm incredibly excited to have someone who's a former CIO of a municipality as a resource. I'm very excited to sit down with that whole committee. And I think there's it's always great to take a hard look at what you're doing and say, hey, can we do something better? Can we do something different? As we go into the town meeting cycle, I'm going to be presenting things for your support to go to town meeting for some funding for things like the OpenGov expansion and perhaps some other things with the budget, and to tweak some titles and create some new titles that I think would replace some ones that are leaving. I think we need to just change how we're structured a bit to adapt to the needs of the 2030s, because that's what's coming next, and the world we live in. So I thank all of you. You all have my direct phone, and so I know we've talked and I've met, and I'm happy to meet all of you as you are. And I think I've had a good regular conversations. I appreciate Michelle's given me a lot of time lately. I appreciate that. And obviously, Mike, whenever you need me, just call, and I'm happy to meet. I'm actually kind of doing a walking tour with a former select board member along the Tri-County Trail soon. So I'm always happy to engage, and I look forward to the cycle that we're in and where we're going. So we're doing great stuff at the local level, and I think we need to continue to do that. And the amazing amount of talent in this town is an incredible gift to work with. So thank you.
So we'll take up the discussion of Christmas goals at the next meeting on the 14th. We have Stacy's contract here in the packet as well, just for reference. So maybe, Stacy, I'm happy to chat with you and we can just check on timeline and things of sort of setting up a evaluation before the end of the calendar year and what that would look like. Sound good? Okay. All right.
So, Madam Chair, would we consider taking new business out of order and hearing from Concom before we do a bunch of internal business?
I think the other internal business is actually pretty brief. So I think, yeah, I'm happy to do that, but our other internal business is going to be really short. So we can, Tracy, if you want to come up, do you need a little bit more time to get it up on the?
No.
Okay.
If you have the presentation
Okay.
at table.
Oh, that's true.
And I have.
We've just lost all our guests, and you seem to be the last one.
You seem like you were moving along, but thank you for
We are. I
taking
just
it.
realized that we had other people just peeling out, so we could.
Okay. So, yeah, Tracy, welcome. So I know Concom has been working on an application to WCCP and just wanted to provide an update to the select board about what you've been doing with that application.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate being here tonight and being able to update you on the Forest Ridge Conservation Land Acquisition Project. So looking back at the Springtown meeting, there were some valid questions about the acquisition, which created some uncertainty and didn't lead to a positive vote. So based on the work, though, that we had in progress, the Concom felt strongly that we could bring forward a revised plan with more certainty and a better value proposition. So we submitted an application to WCCP this spring for Fall Town Meeting. We have more information even since our June 15th application that I'd like to go through with you tonight. So what hasn't changed, if you look at slide 2, is the basic concept of the application of Forest Ridge as a fairly large 13.7 acre land abutting the fells that is proposed for conservation and passive recreation, with using the CPA funds to pay the debt service. The Forest Ridge on slide 3 would be managed by the Conservation Commission. We have the elements of a plan to develop the land, including trails, a small parking lot, and a forest management plan. We plan that all improvements would be funded by grants or use volunteers and no use of town funds. So what has changed since Springtown meeting? One of the big questions, or two of the big questions at Springtown meeting related to the value of the property. One was what price should be paid for the property? What's the value? And how likely is it that the property would ever be developed? So we, since then, have validation of the value of the property. We attained a new appraisal in June for $2.85 million. This is a very strong appraisal. because it meets the very strict federal Yellow Book standards as well as the state standards. It was characterized, and also the property was characterized with the highest and best use for sale to an investor or developer for a residential subdivision development to the highest density allowed. So we feel that this is therefore represents a very accurate value of the property. The other is that we reached out to the landowner in June to start negotiating a price on the property and learned that it was under agreement. Since then, we've learned that the developer is Bell Point LLC, a real estate developer working in eastern Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Bell Point LLC right now is working through the permitting process for a 36 single-family home lot development in Essex. They are also here in Winchester looking to acquire an additional bordering lot to improve the access, and that's been one of the issues with previous developments. And obviously there's no public access if a development would go in. So we've also gotten validation of the value of conserving Forest Ridge at the state and federal levels of government. We've gotten a $250,000 earmark from Representative Day, which has been approved in the state budget for acquisition. We've gotten a small grant awarded for acquisition-related costs, and our two large grants that we've applied for, both at the state and the federal level, we've gotten feedback from the grant managers that an award is likely for both of those grants. These are very competitive grants. The grants are scored based on the importance of conserving the parcel that's being applied for, so we feel that this is strong validation of the importance and value of conserving Forest Ridge. So if you move on to slide 5, I've highlighted on a map which abutters that I know about who have been contacted by the developer looking to buy their homes. And if you see, they are lots that join Forest Street to Forest Circle right at the entrance to Forest Ridge at Forest Circle. So potentially someone's looking to improve access by putting a road through from Forest Street to to the development, which would enable the entrance of emergency vehicles. The turning radius was one of the big issues with previous developments. So how can we acquire this land if it's under agreement with the landowner? So if you look at slide 6, the property can be acquired through eminent domain. CPA funds can be used to pay the owner fair market value. There are actually 10 projects in the statewide CPA database that include eminent domain as a means of land acquisition. Grant awards can be used to pay the owner. The state grant funds can be used without qualification. The federal grant funds can only be used with landowner agreement. As you know, eminent domain requires 2/3 of vote in town meeting to authorize the taking, and in this case also authorize the borrowing to raise the money to acquire the property. The Stoneham parcel obviously can't be obtained through eminent domain by Winchester. However, the Stoneham parcel is a small parcel and could be directly purchased using the earmark funds. So if you look at slide 7, the good news is the debt service estimates are lower than for Springtown meeting. If you step through the table with me, the fair market value is indicated as $2.85 million. We have the reimbursement grants, which are either $425,000 for the state, or with both grants, it would be $1.425 million. The legislative earmark bringing the total bond amount, and this is for the long-term bond, to $2.2 million with a state grant or $1.2 million with both grants. So the estimated annual debt service would be $135,000 with the state grant and $75,000 with both grants. And we think that, that the approximate percent of annual CPA funds utilized in fiscal 2027 would be 6.6%. It was previously at 8%. And this number will diminish as the years go on and the total pool of CPA funds goes up every year. I noted in this presentation for the WCCP, there is a higher bond interest amount in year one because we're borrowing for the total amount, and so the total year one costs for the WCCP would be just over $200,000. So one of the things that I wanted to point out is that with the fundraising that we've done with the grants and the earmark, we've actually raised over 50% of the cost of the property. So why now? Well, the most important thing is the property is under agreement, and it needs protection against development to preserve the wildlife habitat and public access. These woodlands provide significant benefits, both for the surrounding neighborhood, for the ecology of the area as a wildlife corridor, and it helps Winchester meet its climate goals because it's heavily forested across the almost 14 acres of the parcel. This is one of the last significant parcels in Winchester with the potential to be acquired for conservation purposes. And as we've stated before, as Winchester gets denser, as it should, we want to provide people with more nature-based recreation opportunities. The very practical side of things, earmarks and grants must be used in fiscal 27. There's no guarantee of the availability of future funding rounds for grants and earmarks, and budget borrowing costs are currently low. And just to sum up, I think the bottom line for us is that the property is a relatively low-cost investment in the quality of life of Winchester that residents can enjoy now and in perpetuity. And I included a very detailed timeline. I'm happy to answer any questions, but taking you through that at this point might be painful. So,
yeah, thank you, Tracy. I think I appreciate the update on what you've been doing and the update on the application. When you're meeting WCCP within the next week or two, is that right?
They are meeting on Wednesday to deliberate on the projects.
Great. So I think that you also provided the application and supporting materials. It's a lot. I went through some of it, but I think if our board has questions, probably the best way, given the depth of information, is to follow up with you directly on those questions. And I don't know if WCCP is Zoom or in person or.
They've been doing hybrid meetings.
It is in person. I just pulled the agenda today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe also an opportunity to review that, and then we can get an update on the WCCP meeting from Chris or from the chair of WCCP as well.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. There's a lot.
Very much.
A lot that's.
And please reach out with any questions. I'm happy to answer them all. I think it helps make our efforts stronger the more questions we have. And we've gotten a lot of support from this group, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Stacy, sorry to call you. What was the CPA amount we got last year? We thought we were going to get 1.6 and we got 1.8.
1.8.
All right.
Thank you, Tracy. As I'm yelling over you to Stacy.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Rounded, of course, up to 1.
All right, so we will then zigzag back up to our town meeting items. So Chris mentioned earlier, I think the warrant closes on the 21st of September, so we'll have potentially some articles coming through from the town side, from Stacy, maybe a couple that we'll get updated on. But I think we had a few suggestions at our last meeting. I haven't heard anything more on those. Sounds like maybe we don't have any broader things that we've formalized as a select board that need town meeting articles.
So we had in the last 2 years, but Stacy might take this up, we had done 2 years at least of health insurance stabilization fund articles under our name. If that comes out of the manager's name, the comptroller's, well, you have to run it through the manager, right? The comptroller can't put it on by herself. So health insurance stabilization, whether it's going into the fund or to offset current year budgets, I think that we should have a placeholder for. I don't know if we have any property that we're, like last fall, I went back through the packet, we were transferring care and control of 160 Forest to the Affordable Housing Trust. I don't know if we anticipate there's any parcels that we either expect to be transferred to us or we expect to transfer out. And I don't know if we have any bylaws that we want to change for ourselves, but those would be some traditional ones for select board, not individual members of select board. And I'm not sure, Chris, if we're hearing anything around, any land, any care, control, custody. Obviously, we're not looking to take the carriage house over, but is there any other parcels, any orphan parcels, any other land out there that you or the assessor or the treasurer, anybody's looking to acquire?
There's nothing that I'm aware of right now. There may be some adoptions of state law that we're researching whether the town is fully up to date on. Some go back a very long way into the past, so we're trying to confirm whether they were adopted or not. It has to do with procedural matters. And I hopefully will understand that in the next week or two better. But those would be something that would come through all of the select board, obviously.
And this is not for us, but I got an email and a text today from a resident who was looking at one of the ballot questions. And maybe this is a Karis question, and it was a specifically ballot question 7 relative to zoning and allowing single-family development by right on 5,000 square foot lots with 50 feet of frontage. That's site plan, zoning, ZBA, planning board, somebody owns that, not us. But are there any ballot questions that have impact on us as a municipality? Should they pass or should they fail? So it wasn't on my radar until this afternoon, but I wonder if there's anything else that would impact municipal business. Zoning is not select board's purview, but it may be town council could look at that, because I don't know, it would probably be like all over town hall. There might be impacts. So anything revenue related, zoning related, road related.
The biggest ones involved, the repeal of legalized marijuana, but it's not allowed for sale here. The biggest impact would have been the state income tax. That would have had reverberation effects, but that's not on the ballot now. They've all been now certified. I have to go back and double check. The zoning one is probably the biggest because there's a number of parcels here that are larger than 10,000 square feet, and the question becomes, with this, and there isn't a straight, nobody really knows because it wasn't drafted with this intent, but it could have side effects. Could it allow somebody with a larger lot than 10,000 square feet subdivide them into 2 or 3, depending on if they have enough frontage and size? Whether people would do it is different than whether they can. That's a question we did. I'm on a committee that looked at of the Mass Municipal Associations that looked at that question. There isn't an answer, unfortunately. I will go back and double check now that they're all certified. But the single biggest one would have been, and rent control might have been too, except I don't think there's a lot of. That would have been some kind of local adoption, but that's not in the ballot either. So. But the biggest economic one would have been the income tax change. So.
Yep. So the election will be on the 3rd, and we'll start town meeting on the 2nd.
The 5th.
The 5th.
We'll start town meeting on the 5th.
So it's highlighted in yellow now. We've added those
Yeah, in a year when the election's on a Tuesday, the town meeting doesn't start till the Thursday after.
So we'll have answers by the time we walk into town meeting on
We will
anything. So
we'll
if you
know
could,
what happened.
if someone could do that research, I think that would be helpful. And if there's a read on the zoning article versus EBA, if someone, it's state law, you probably can't do anything, but if there's a read on that the select board needs to consider, if there's an article that someone might bring, I don't know.
There is another zoning change that would basically allow duplexes by right or two families by right beyond the ADUs that's already been approved, that's being discussed by the conference committee between the House and Senate in the economic development bill. So I don't know where that is right now, but I don't get the impression that that's going to happen before November, unless it's going to be really good news. They're giving away awards to people. That's been a real controversial question too, because I don't know how, if all of these things move forward, it could really radically impact local zoning.
Yep. Okay.
So we have select board norms, just kind of as keeping that as a placeholder. The one bit of information I learned is that maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was a short norms document drafted. I'm trying to see if someone still has a copy of that hanging around that they can share. I don't know if that might be something that we have buried deep in a digital archive that we could take a look at, but might be a useful piece of information. And then Bill or Mike, if you have any update on next steps here.
I'll fall on my sword. I've started to draft something to discuss with Mike. It didn't get as far as I wanted to due to some professional demands, but I think that I intend to have something to Mike this week that the two of us can work on and hopefully come together and say, this is something that we recommend starts a discussion at the board, and then we can have a larger discussion here.
Sounds good. Mike, anything to add to that?
No, I think we're definitely, Bill and I are doing our own research kind of independently, and then we're going to kind of come together and bring some things for discussion for the board, and just, talking to other communities and other boards, and I think that's helpful for us so we can kind of hit the ground running when we decide to kind of establish them. And of course, we can always add and delete whatever we vote, and future boards can also do that as well, depending on what works and what doesn't work. So, it's been, it's kind of the vacation time of year, so I think it's been hard to move this forward, but I think we're still working. So, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Brian was here earlier. Brian and some members of the planning board are going to have an absolutely riveting working group around retaining walls. They asked, you have the email in the packet that came to me, they asked if they could have Bill join their small working group as to have a member of the select board. They expect to meet, I think, like 2 to 3 times with the town planner and a few members of the planning board. And so just wanted to put this forward to the board and see, we can make a motion to designate Bill unless there's a discussion and someone else would really love to talk about retaining walls.
Nope. Do we think it's a spring town meeting bylaw, obviously, at the pace that we're on? Or if at the earliest spring town meeting?
No, they're shooting for fall.
They're shooting for fall.
They're having a meeting this Friday. And my only interest is to make sure it comports with the rest of our bylaws and does not conflict. I would defer to the planning board and policy issues.
Okay.
So Bill, you're welcome to make a motion, or
I'm a little-
Michelle,
Oh,
you
sorry, we need to make a motion. Sorry,
to appoint him.
I was moving right along.
Yeah.
Move that the Select Board designate Bill McGonigal to serve as a Select Board representative to the Planning Board Retaining Wall Zoning Bylaw Working Group. That's a mouthful. Established by the Planning Board, not done yet, Mike. Established by the Planning Board to review and make recommendations regarding a potential zoning bylaw amendment concerning retaining walls. Now you can say it. There it is.
All right. Any further discussion on the Planning Board Retaining Wall Zoning Bylaw Working Group?
Nope.
Anyone would like to make a new Dr. Seuss title? I think we found it. All right. Roll call vote. Bill?
Aye. Sure.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
You're on mute, Mike.
Mike, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So sorry, yeah, no, I lost the connection for a second. Good.
All right, I vote yes as well. That was our last order of business, and then we just have approving the minutes from our August 10th meeting.
Move to approve the minutes from the August 10th meeting. Let me make sure I got that motion correct. 2026.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
I vote yes as well. All right.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll just say for our huge remaining audience, so we're meeting again on the 14th, 21st, and 28th. So a little bit of a break between now and our next meeting due to Labor Day, and good luck to everyone with school starting or just the impending doom of the end of summer. So now I'll take the motion to adjourn on that note.
Motion to adjourn renewed.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
I vote yes as well. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, WinCam.